My goal is to be as truthful as possible in my reporting. I've no interest in deliberately spreading falsehoods. That benefits no one. However, we live in a world where the truth can feel rather fractured. As we all know, there are competing interests across the political spectrum that often seek to frame events in a particular way that suits their agenda. Unfortunately, truth is frequently caught in the crossfire. Take, for instance, the recent case of Kumanjayi White. Last week, 27th of May 2025, Mr. White, a 24-year-old Aboriginal man, who later was identified as having a disability, entered a supermarket in Alice Springs where it is alleged he attempted to steal items by placing them down the front of his clothing. Obviously, this is just an artist's impression. He was approached by a couple of security guards, one of which he assaulted. Two police officers, who were in plain clothes at the time, helped to restrain Mr. White, who at some point lost consciousness and was sent to the local hospital where he was pronounced deceased shortly after. Media reports seem to imply that he died as a result of the police restraint, but the Northern Territory's chief forensic pathologist completed an autopsy, finding his cause of death as undetermined, though further investigation will be carried out. The publicly funded ABC, which is legally required to be impartial, appears to be taking an emotive, one-sided stance on this matter. We've seen headlines such as "Calls for Justice," "A Tragic Day," "Demands for Answers," "Accountability and Justice." This, of course, implies that Mr. White was the victim of a terrible injustice. Similarly, politicians such as Senator Lydia Thorpe are posting messages on Instagram stating, "Justice for Kumanjayi White." As I said earlier, my goal is to just report as truthfully as possible. In the name of fairness and impartiality, if new details emerge, regardless of my personal opinions, I should report on them. For instance, on June 3rd, the ABC published, "Former Alice Springs Coles supermarket worker says Kumanjayi White clearly needed support." Previously, it was unclear what Mr. White's disability entailed. However, the ABC found a person, Gene Hill, who says he used to serve Kumanjayi White when he worked at the supermarket and could see he's got special needs. Specifically, he said, "One glance at him and you can see he's got special needs. The first thing I looked for was his carer." This naturally raises a crucial question that the article doesn't seem to address. Where was his carer that day when he was stealing goods and attacking security guards? Mr. Hill said he used to spot Mr. White wandering the supermarket aisles and would simply go up to him and grab the products off him and just explain to him that it's got to be paid for. He suggested Coles should hire more Indigenous staff to help overcome language barriers and better support Aboriginal shoppers with disabilities. He said, "There's no one for the language barrier, and they don't hire Indigenous security guards." Okay, should we hire Chinese security guards to deal with Chinese customers? Should we hire Inuit security guards to overcome the language barriers with the Inuit community? From what I can see, the ABC have simply gone out of their way to find a person who could add credibility to Mr. White's undisclosed disability, which, based on the alleged incident, involved uncontrolled impulse behaviour related to theft. Also published on June 3rd by the ABC was an article titled, "Kumanjayi White's Family Continued Demands for CCTV Footage." As you can see, the article is categorised as Black Deaths in Custody, a framing consistent across their coverage, and another example of the ABC's failure to impartiality. One has to wonder if similar categories exist for Asian deaths in custody, or, heaven forbid, white deaths in custody. In the article, they interview the grandfather of Mr. White, Ned Jampajimpa Hargraves, who says his community are angry and do not trust police. Mr. Hargraves said his Jar, grandson, was a very quiet and happy person who had a disability and was on NDIS. "I'm still crying. I miss that young fella so much." Look, I do feel for him. It was a horrible situation. The article also reinforces the anti-police rhetoric. I'll tell you strongly what I believe. We do not trust police. We do not trust them. However, I did find another article in the Alice Springs News dated May 31st, 2025, titled Death in Custody. Care could not be provided in hometown. In the article, they also interviewed the grandfather, Mr. Hargraves. The reporter asks him why they couldn't look after his grandson, Mr. White, in his hometown of Yuendumu, and he replied, "Well, in Yuendumu, he was really kind of aggressive to family. It wasn't really possible at the time." He also added, "We were concerned about his condition. He was angry. He was angry with his mother, with us, the family. We couldn't take care of him. We had been taking care of him. The situation with him was, he was always angry." Well, that shines a new light on it, doesn't it? The ABC framed Mr. White as being very quiet and happy, yet in a different news outlet interviewing the same grandfather, suddenly Mr. White was described as being aggressive and angry. And that pretty much proves my point. The impartial ABC are not so impartial when it comes to reporting on this particular Aboriginal death in custody.